Stanford University.
As we gather in the beauty of this Californian sunshine this afternoon to welcome the very newest members of the Stanford community, so we invoke a blessing upon us all. Source of all life, eternal spirit, at the beginning of this new school year, we ask your blessing upon each member of the Stanford class of 2018 and each transfer student, and upon all those who have been and will be a part of their lives. May each know the exhilaration of deep learning and the excitement of discovering the new. May each come to discern their particular talents and abilities and have the courage to be true to themselves. May each know, too, the importance of taking risks, the gift of listening to others, and the joy of lasting friendships. May those of us gathered here today, along with our friends and colleagues across the campus, join with these new members of our community in the quest for knowledge, embracing challenges, seeking wisdom, and delighting in our capacity for wonder and curiosity. And may we all have a passion for justice and a love for this planet Earth, which gives us sustenance for this great adventure we call life, so that this center of excellence and learning can play its part in transforming a needy and broken world into a global community of peace. Amen. Please be seated. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce the next Dean Shaw to speak. That is Dean Richard Shaw, Dean of Admission and Financial Aid.
And I'm most happy to welcome Dean Shaw as in her new role at Stanford. This is her first official function. Thank you. President Hennessy, trustees, deans, faculty, staff, parents, and guests. What a spectacular day! What an incredible moment to the class of 2018 and to the new transfer class. You have arrived. You are here. More. Go Stanford, go Cardinal! Well, that was delightful. Did you know that you were admitted from the largest applicant pool in Stanford's history, 42,168? Come on. 1,681 of you are matriculating today in the class of 2018, joined by 29 Stanford students. You come from 50 states and 57 countries, and close to 50% of you are women and 50% are men. 14% of the class of 2018 are the first-generation college students. So we chose each and every one of you for your unique combination of abilities, talents, and qualities. The admissions committee reconfirmed this morning that we did not make a single mistake. Today is my absolute favorite day of the year. I see in your faces a sense of joy and hopeful anticipation, much like when you got your driver's license or when you went to the prom for the first time. This moment is a new beginning, full of expectation, excitement, and quite possibly a measure of apprehension. Because today is also a day that marks a transition from high school to college, yes, but more importantly, a transition from the certainty of the known to the opportunity of the unknown. In honor of this transition, I want to tell you a story of a Stanford graduate, Maribel Ledesma. It was the fall of 1994 when Maribel arrived at Stanford for new student orientation. She had been raised in South Texas, the daughter of migrant farm workers. She had spent her youth traveling with her parents from one harvest to the next, from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas to the San Joaquin in California. Move-in day at Stanford was a brief stop on her parents' way to the Yakima Valley in Washington state, where grapes and apples and pears were ready to be picked. For a young woman whose life to that point had been a constant series of transitions, Stanford was a chance to break that cycle for herself. Maribel came to Stanford looking for her place in the world, determined to navigate the transition from the life of her family to the opportunity of Stanford, a transition between worlds as far apart as the 2,000-mile Rio Grande is long. Already armed with resilience, born of so many previous transitions, Maribel worked hard, reached out, found community, and made meaningful connections, especially with faculty. Their guidance and mentorship offered an extended family at Stanford when her own family was not available. During her years at Stanford, Maribel found her voice and learned the importance of inclusion and identifying points of connection across communities, lessons important for navigating all of life's transitions. When Maribel graduated from Stanford, she headed to New York City with $300 in her pocket, embarking yet on another transition. She was hoping to earn $20,000 a year, just a small step up from her parents' annual income of $15,000. Today, Maribel Ledesma is Vice President of Goldman Sachs in the Office of Global Leadership and Diversity. She works to recruit the best and the brightest talent from the widest range of backgrounds. Her job, essentially, is to assist others in their transitions. To the students new to Stanford today, the first day of orientation is a touchstone. This is a day you will remember for the rest of your lives. Whatever your background, you are all in this transition together, united in a new beginning, open to new community and a new family at Stanford. What is the foundation of a successful transition? Maribel brought it with her to Stanford. It's resilience. If something doesn't work out, learn from it. Seek advice and perspective from friends and faculty mentors. Find communities of support within the greater Stanford community. Make connections that will allow you to thrive. Be open to the possibility of opportunities you've never dreamed of. This is the beginning of your Stanford adventure. We are so happy that you're here. Thank you. I now deliver you to the undergraduate schools and to the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education and Professor in the Humanities, Harry J. Elam, Jr.
Thank you, Dean Shaw, for your remarks and for bringing to Stanford this amazing new class. Following the tradition of convocation in which the Dean of Admissions turns over the class of incoming students to the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, it is my great honor to receive you. I am thrilled to welcome you, class of 2018 and transfer students of 2016 and 17, to Stanford University. Students, I can sense your excitement. Today is indeed a special day for you and for all of us gathered here. It is a day of new beginnings, of adventures not yet realized, of opportunities and experiences just waiting for you over the horizon. Such is the nature of this day. I also recognize that this day may have seemed long in coming. For when August came around and some of your friends or family members trundled off to college, you had to wait for what would be your time. And so, you may have read every Stanford email, watched every Stanford video, twice, dutifully filled out your NSO forms. You may have devoured the 3 books and engaged in chats online with new classmates. All this helped to fill the time. Somewhat. You still had to wait. You may have even tried to create an algorithm using big data that would help you decipher who your new roommate would be. But it didn't work. And so you had to relax and recognize that you would know your roommate's identity and so much more in time. And then this morning finally arrived. And so you put on the clothes that you'd laid out just for today, 5 weeks ago, and you arrived at just the right time for move-in day, just to make sure you didn't miss anything. Well, let me assure you that no, you haven't missed a thing. And yes, as Dean Shaw said, you have arrived. For this is indeed your time, and this is most definitely the place. Today may also bring more than a tinge of nervousness, students, as you face the uncertainty of what lies ahead, as you confront the change of moving into this new place that is Stanford. To be sure, the campus may seem sprawling at first, but what also begins for you today is a process of cutting it to size and making it fit you. You may have your doubts as to whether you can measure up to all that is expected of you at Stanford. What we want you to understand today and always is that we have no doubt that you belong here, and that all we expect of you is that you be you. What you should also know is that just as you've been waiting for today, the faculty, staff, and administration have been waiting here for you. And so from this day one, you will be working closely with our world-class faculty members in the production of new knowledge. We will also learn with and through you, for you will challenge us and promote new thinking. Unburdened by 350 years of ivy, Stanford isn't bound by, nor does it cling to outdated traditions, but rather celebrates the fresh growth and spirit of discovery. Stanford's motto, "Let the winds of freedom blow," is a metaphor that captures the truth of this place. You can breathe freely here. We are a school that truly cultivates new ways of thinking. We fully recognize that this is a place where invention and innovation regularly emerge from people under 30 years old. So believe me, we do not buy into the conventional educational hierarchies of the worldly teacher imparting knowledge to acolytes who are supposedly empty vessels awaiting our wisdom. We trust you already have wisdom, and we want to help you cultivate it to your highest potential. At Stanford, we cook up our own intellectual secret sauce, combining tradition and creation in a savory blend. And in that spirit of freshness, diversity for us, and I mean diversity of all kinds, is not a catchphrase, not a cliche, but a fundamental educational practice. We realize that difference is critical to excellence. That inclusive attitude and entrepreneurial energy that founded this university more than 120 years ago still characterizes it today. Now, parents, families, friends, I know that today is perhaps a bit bittersweet. I suspect that although you are profoundly excited for your child and the opportunities before them, some of you may feel as if this day, though long awaited, has somehow, suddenly, come a little too soon. Well, for some of you, perhaps it did not come soon enough. Still, let me attempt to ease some of your concern. Here, your child will be pushed, but appreciated. They will face exceptional academic challenges, but find unprecedented support. They will come to know new worlds, but also come into new knowledge of themselves. Students, you sit now on the threshold of a life-expanding journey with a chance not only to define, but to fulfill your dreams. Yes, today is your day, your time, your moment. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Relish it. Make it your own, and do not hesitate to let it remake you. For rest assured, Stanford will change you, and in turn, all of you will change us. And it all starts here, now, today. It is my great pleasure to now introduce to you our student speaker, Chad Kamisugi of the class of 2015.
Thank you, Vice Provost Elam. During freshman year, I began to meditate. Each week, I walk backwards across campus for about 3 hours to clear my mind. I've actually found that talking with strangers accelerates the reflection process. Now, before you brush me aside and say I should go back to Cal, I'll tell you one thing. Some of you have meditated with me. For the past 3 years, I've been a Stanford tour guide. Tour guiding has challenged me to stop and think about the meaning of my Stanford education and experience thus far. 2 lessons have emerged. The first is the importance of building meaningful relationships. And the second is the importance of humility. Tours are about building relationships. When I first began guiding, I thought that it was my job to sell the school, but I was quite wrong. People can find all the information they need online. Heck, I bet some of the overeager high schoolers that we all once were know more about the school than I do. So I asked myself the question, what could I possibly tell visitors that they didn't already know? I realized that all I could hope to share was a sincere and honest student perspective. Over the course of our tour, I could hope to try and build a relationship of trust. It's kind of like meeting a new roommate, as many of you did today. When I first met my freshman roommate, I couldn't imagine what was going through the minds of the people that had paired us. My roommate and I were so different. Chase was an athletic Caucasian kid who was born in California but raised most of his life in Tanzania and Kenya. I was a roly-poly Japanese kid who was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Chase's parents were missionaries. My parents did not regularly go to church. Like many of you, I had never had a roommate before, and given our differences, I thought we would never really see eye to eye. But to my surprise, from the start, Chase was willing to be vulnerable and open. Having been raised in a fairly traditional Asian American household that valued privacy, this trust took me completely off guard. Gradually, I also learned to be comfortable being vulnerable and open as well. This trust that Chase brought to our relationship laid the foundations for us to become one another's support system that our families had once provided. I was fortunate to have a roommate like Chase, who started our relationship with this genuine trust, and I hope that you will experience the same. There will be times at Stanford when you will feel overwhelmed, and it is in these moments that I have come to truly appreciate having prioritized relationships like the one I built with Chase. I try and bring the same trust to my tours, and I've found that this is made for much more authentic and meaningful experiences. The second major lesson tour guiding has taught me is the importance of humility. I vividly remember one of the visitors asking me what I thought the 20 other students who didn't get my spot at Stanford were doing. I was reminded of the responsibility we all have. We were the lucky ones. And getting into Stanford is not an end. It is the acceptance of a lifelong responsibility to be more thoughtful and more hungry. Studying abroad in the Stanford Center in Beijing last spring, I realized how comfortable I had become within the Stanford bubble. Going directly into an internship in the professional world was another awakening. I realized that comfort can sometimes lead to a dangerous arrogance. If we stop being humble and curious, we won't continue to grow. As an alumni mentor of mine always reminds me, our Stanford education only means something if we put it to good use. We will each experience Stanford in our own unique ways. But for me, looking back upon the past 3 years, Stanford is about building meaningful relationships. Stanford is about remaining humble. Stanford is about remembering that sometimes we need to take the time to walk backwards, to figure out what's important in our lives walking forward. Class of 2018 and transfer students, it is my honor to welcome you into our family. Thank you. And now, I am pleased to introduce Stanford University President John Hennessy.
Thank you, Chad, for that wonderful speech. Parents, family members, transfer students, and members of the incredible class of 2018, welcome to the farm. Welcome to the home of the Stanford tree. Welcome to Nerd Nation. Welcome to Stanford University. Today, we celebrate the arrival of 1,681 new freshmen and 29 transfer students. In thinking about the start of the new school year, I have often turned to biographies that I've read over the past year for inspiration. Late last year, I noticed a brief review of a book entitled Fighting for Life. It was the autobiography of Sarah Josephine Baker. Probably not the Josephine Baker you're thinking of, the famous African-American entertainer, but Sarah Josephine Baker, an early crusader for public health in New York City. Her book had recently been republished after being out of print for decades. The review was fascinating, so I put it on my summer reading list. On the very first page, the reader has an indication that Sarah Josephine Baker was an extraordinary person, even when she was only 6 years old. In 1879, she's out in front of her house. She's dressed as a young girl from a well-to-do family in all her finery, getting ready for a special outing. Along comes a young black girl of about the same age, 6 years old. But she's dressed in ragged clothing and looked very thin and hungry. Baker asked herself, how could she have so much and that little girl so little? She then took off all her clothing, including her underwear, and gave it to the little girl. She worried about what her parents would say. But as she states, her parents were fine people and seemed to understand. Well, after that, who could put this book down? And Baker went on to live an incredible life. She is credited with starting the first children's public health programs in New York City and saving the lives of approximately 80,000 children. As she once observed, the mortality rate for children in New York City in the early 1900s exceeded that for soldiers in World War I. But that was before Josephine Baker got involved. How did Baker prepare herself for a life of such consequence? Well, as a young girl, she did not dream of being a doctor. Instead, she went to a liberal-minded private high school and was hoping to attend Vassar College, a short distance from her home. But when she was 16, both her father and her older brother died of typhoid. She decided that she needed to pursue a practical career so she could self-support her family. She chose medicine, but she was totally unprepared. Her high school experience had given her no grounding in science. So she spent the next year studying before she took and passed the entrance exams. I trust that as you prepared for this day, you also took some time to contemplate what you're searching for in your undergraduate education. Like Baker, you live in a time of tremendous change. New discoveries in science are revolutionizing the way we treat human disease, as well as challenging us with deep and complex ethical questions. Events around the world remind us that we share a small planet, tightly interconnected, both by jet travel and technology. And the Ebola outbreak in Africa reminds us that medical care in many parts of the world leaves much to be desired. Baker had to search hard for medical schools that accepted women and had to combat many naysayers, especially male physicians. Fortunately, such discrimination and stereotyping have largely, although not completely, disappeared, at least in this country. Despite the many changes that have occurred over the last 125 years, the questions that confront young people as they begin their education are timeless. How can I find my passion? How do I know what I'm really good at? How can I make the most of my time at Stanford? I can offer a few suggestions based on my 37 years as a member of this community. My first suggestion is to get to know the faculty. Our faculty have chosen to pursue the academic life because they have a passion for learning and for communicating that knowledge and insight to others. We've been told by alumni that getting to know a faculty member personally was one of the most important things they did during their time at Stanford. And we have invested heavily to try to increase those experiences for our students, especially in their first 2 years. One of the hallmarks of our innovations is the Introductory Seminars program. This includes our freshman seminars, which are individually taught by Stanford faculty and enroll no more than 16 students per seminar. This year, there'll be over 100 freshman seminars on topics crossing the entire spectrum, from renewable energy to biotechnology, to globalization, the ancient world, great literature, the Middle East, French intellectual culture, social protest, aging, and Latin American politics, and that's just a few. These seminars are a wonderful opportunity to get to know a faculty member as well as a subject that you've never experienced. But get to know the faculty outside of the classroom as well. While I love giving an exciting lecture to a packed classroom, my greatest enjoyment comes when students come to visit me in my office, or I go to visit them in their residence. We talk about research, we talk about careers, we talk about maximizing their time at Stanford. We have an extraordinary faculty. Get to know them, discover why they're passionate about their pursuits. Josephine Baker found her inspiration in 2 women doctors, Dr. Blackwell, the head of her school, and Dr. Danielle, whose course on hygiene, child hygiene, she actually failed on her first attempt. But that failure pushed Josephine Baker to learn more about the subject and to discover the primitive state of child hygiene in the late 1800s. Just as Baker learned from her peers in college, then throughout her life, I encourage you to take advantage of the wonderful diversity of experiences and backgrounds of your fellow students. Over the next few years, you will get to know students whose backgrounds, cultures, or beliefs are different from yours. You may find that your own values and prejudices are challenged. I hope that you will discover a new understanding and appreciation for the pluralistic society in which we live, and find constructive ways to contribute to this world. The opportunity to learn from your fellow students is an important part of a Stanford education. And there are many different avenues you can take advantage of that. We have 4 ethnic theme houses on campus, for example. They provide great opportunities for people of all backgrounds, not just the students who live there, to get to know more about a specific culture and heritage. You have chosen to attend a university that is not only a great educational institution, but is also a great research institution. I encourage you to take advantage of that. Take courses and attend seminars that explore the frontiers of new fields, where knowledge and understanding are being created. For me, participating in undergraduate research led me from my major in electrical engineering to my graduate major in computer science. And it ignited a passion for being on the leading edge of discovery that sustained me through my PhD and continues to excite me after more than 35 years as a Stanford faculty member. Being at the forefront of discovery and taking part in the creation of new knowledge is an immensely rewarding and life-changing experience. Experiment and take intellectual risks. Challenge yourself with courses in disciplines that are new to you. And should you occasionally not succeed, don't become disillusioned. Just remember to learn from your mistakes. Baker believed that she could improve the quality of children's health, but it meant going door to door, educating mothers in the poorest neighborhoods in New York City. It was a giant experiment. But when after 1 year, she had reduced the child mortality in her district from over 1,000 to less than 10, she had the evidence to convince others that there was a better approach to child hygiene. So by all means, experiment, but be safe. and don't hesitate to ask for a little guidance along the way. Baker found a life in public service, and many Stanford students come with an interest in public and community service. Fortunately, the Haas Center for Public Service is one of the most extensive university centers anywhere, and they have a variety of opportunities for service learning, locally, nationally, and around the globe. Late in her career, Josephine Baker became an international spokesperson for children's health, traveling to Russia and elsewhere, and serving as ambassador on health issues to the League of Nations. You are growing up in an age where globalization is absolutely a reality, and where international perspective is more important than ever. The Being Overseas Studies program provides opportunities for immersive educational experiences outside the United States. It is a rewarding and enlightening opportunity, and one that many of our alumni report was one of the most transformative things they did at Stanford. Baker grew up in a time when prejudice, stereotyping, and ignorance were widespread. This university was founded just about the time she was entering medical school. Stanford's leaders and early founders endowed this university with lofty ideals. Jane and Leland Stanford, in the aftermath of the tragic death of their only son at the age of 15, established this university to benefit other people's children, and as it says in the founding grant, to exercise an influence on behalf of humanity and civilization. They founded a coeducational institution dedicated to the principle of meritocracy. Stanford's first president, David Starr Jordan, who chose the motto, "The winds of freedom blow," to remind us of the importance of free and open inquiry. And the very first faculty and students of the university, who created in 1896 the fundamental standard, which emphasizes personal integrity and respect for each and every member of the community. It is a standard that we operate under more than 100 years later. Your invitation to join this community was also an invitation to live by these same ideals. So as you begin your time at Stanford and plan your 4 years here, I would urge you to remember that undergraduate education is a foundation for life. It is a once-in-a-lifetime journey. It is much more than the ticket to your first job. It is an opportunity to learn the skills and passion for being a lifelong learner in areas related to and outside of your future career. Remember that Josephine Baker started out looking for a career to support herself after the death of her father, and ended up changing the quality of children's health forever. To the parents in the audience, I assure you that Stanford will provide a variety of possibilities for growing and learning during the next few years. But it is your children, as individuals, who will choose what excites them, what generates intellectual passion, and what engages their very able minds. I hope that you will support that choice. Many individuals counseled Baker against pursuing a medical career, but her mother supported her. And through Baker's life's work, many children's lives were saved. She found a passion in medicine and in children, and I hope each of our students finds a similar passion. Baker brought other important characteristics to her studies and her work: commitment, resilience, perseverance. In one instance, she was tracking Typhoid Mary, the person who was the index case for the largest typhoid epidemic ever in New York City. She tracked her down not once, but twice, the second time after Typhoid Mary escaped from quarantine. Baker worked long hours to show that improved hygiene and nutrition could save lives, and she overcame prejudice against both her gender and a reported sexual orientation. As she was writing her autobiography, it was reported that life expectancy in New York City had risen 14 years over the past 25-year period. she took great pride when it was pointed out that most of that gain had come from the reduction in mortality during the first 2 years of life. Over the many years I've been at Stanford, I have had the opportunity to meet many highly accomplished people, scientists and inventors, writers and entrepreneurs, political leaders, and great humanitarians. The commitment, the perseverance that Baker showed in her work has been visible in every single one of those leaders I met. So I hope you approach your time at Stanford with the same enthusiasm and commitment. If you do, you will get more value from your time here, and you will use what you learn here more effectively in your life. I welcome all our new students and their parents to the Stanford family. Students, I hope your time here transforms your lives, just as it has transformed the lives of so many alumni. And finally, I hope that your time here provides a foundation on which you will make your contributions to a better future for yourselves and the generations that will follow. Welcome to the farm, and welcome to the Stanford family.
Hello. Please rise for the Stanford alma mater. Hail, Stanford, hail.
We will sing it twice. The first time around, we will sing it alone. The second time around, we invite you to sing it with us. The words are printed in your program.
Where the rolling foothills rise, up towards mountains higher, where at eve the coast range lies, in the sunset fire, flushing deep and paling, here we raise our voices hailing thee, our alma mater. From the foothills to the bay, it shall ring as we sing, it shall ring and float away. Hail, Stanford, hail! Hail, Stanford, hail! Thank you. Now please join us as we sing it again. Where the rolling foothills rise, up towards mountains higher, where at eve the coast range lies, in the sunset fire, flushing deep and paling, here we raise our voices hailing thee, our alma mater. From the foothills to the bay, it shall ring as we sing, it shall ring and float away. Hail, Stanford, hail! Hail, Stanford, hail!
Please remain standing for the benediction.
Holy Wisdom, as we embark on this grand adventure, be our teacher. Shape our hearts as surely as our minds around the common good. Teach us the wisdom of generosity, the simple kindness to make room in our lives for others, to recognize the fears around or within us, strong enough to name them and gentle enough to ease them. Help us to see those we might otherwise overlook and those from whom our books may shield us. Grant us generosity of intellect to inhabit our doubts long enough to befriend and follow them, to listen to those with whom we disagree long enough to learn from them. Teach us the wisdom of humor and humility, to take ourselves lightly, to laugh. May we remember now and in the days to come, life is brief, so let our kindness be swift and our perspective broad. Grant us the wisdom of gratefulness when we think of the place we come from, home. We ask your blessing upon all of us gathered here, upon Stanford University, and all those who have sustained it and passed on its good heritage to us. Amen.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.